and welcome back to another week with Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, TV show on credit and financial tips. Thank you for joining us today. Let's stop for a moment and just go ahead and share this video with a friend so that they can learn about clearing up their credit, their finances, and today's topic, getting their rental history intact. That's what we are talking about today. We did a video last week on part 1, and this is a continuation of part 2 on renting property. So I want to make sure that you set your notifications so that you never ever miss one of our KBCR TV shows that airs every Friday from 12:30 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are also powered by the CTR Media Network, and we just want to give a shout out to them and thank them for allowing us to be viewed by billions of people all across the globe. All right, so today we are jumping into the subject matter of renting property again. And today we would like to start out, as we always do, by establishing what is credit. Because how do we get into our financial situations? It starts with our income and deciding that we make so much money, but we don't necessarily make enough money to be able to purchase everything that we want to buy. So therefore, we have to deal with having credit. And if you don't know by now, credit is up there with oxygen. Y'all sniff that? Y'all sniff that? That's oxygen. It's called credit, oxygen. Okay? All right. So just a little funny tip. But anyway, the point is that whenever we look at having credit, we need to first understand that credit is established by the fact that we don't have enough money to pay for the things that we want or the things that we need. And so we go to a financial institution to obtain credit. So we got to have a pretty good reputation in order to get credit. We got to have so many different things that are checked off in the boxes in order for us to get credit. So let's dive into today's message about renting property. Now, last week we talked about the reality of there are multiple types of reporting agencies out there, and it's not just about credit reporting agencies, it's also about the rental property reporting agencies. So we're talking about the fact that there are different companies that are literally established to collect data from you and I, and they collect the data and then they send the data to the reporting companies. So one of the companies that we talked about last week is the rental property companies. They send the data to the rental property companies that hold the information about your renting history. And we want to establish that there are multiple rental property reporting agencies out there. So don't just assume that because you rent from a certain landlord or a rental property management company that everybody's doing a rental property check through the same rental reporting agencies, because that's not how it's done. There are millions upon millions of people who furnish data to different types of reporting companies, and we know now that the rental reporting agencies are by the thousands. Okay, so we talked about last week some of the top name companies like TransUnion, SmartMove. We talked about CoreLogic, Appfolio. We even talked about the fact that LexisNexis, which is not a rental reporting company, they actually provide information to the rental property agencies. So we want to know and understand that, just because a particular reporting agency or a company that collects data receives the information and sends it out to different reporting agencies, it doesn't mean that they aren't cross-referencing information about you. So we want to establish that there are multiple companies that could be doing a rental reporting screen check on you. So when they say that they're going to run your credit check, they ask for your social, they ask for all of the data that is surrounded around you being able to rent a property. We want to establish that It could be any rental reporting agency, not just the ones that I named last week, but in addition, there are thousands of other ones that are out there. So we learned that last week. And to this week, we want to talk about that screening process. That's where we left off last week. We were talking about some of the things that will help us to get approval. So we did discuss that, of course, number one is going to be consistent income. You cannot have lapse in job income or business income if you are a business owner, if you are a employee or independent contractor. There has to be a consistent show of your income for the rental reporting companies to be able to rent to you. That's kind of like, just firsthand right off the top. We all should know that, but I have to emphasize that that is a must. The second thing that we talked about is making sure that you have a good credit score. So making sure that your credit score is somewhere between the range of a 580 to a 680. That's a 100-point difference, and it really will make a difference in the type of property that you're able to rent, because what happens is you will be able to rent a better property with the higher credit score that you have. So we want the average score for renting property to be around a 620. But if you can get it higher, absolutely great. That's what Kingdom Builders Credit Repair is for. So if you have not signed up, make sure that you go ahead and click the link in this description below, and you can get started right away. All right. And then we talked about not just having our income and having our credit done, but making sure that we have all of these boxes checked off to make sure that we're in position to be able to rent the property, right? We were discussing like having attitudes, and we were talking about, just different things that they look for. So what I'm doing today is just picking up from where we left off with that information. We had the discussion about your phone number being right, your email being right, and of course, making sure that all of your legal documentation is correct. So I'm going to start from there. When we look at renting property, do we have our actual Social Security card in the correct name and a driver's license in the correct address of where we say that we live according to our credit reports? Okay, so let's just start with that right there. When we looked at the income and the credit, we looked at the phone number and the email, but really important key points are making sure that you have your Social Security number card under the right name. So this is really a big problem that we see all the time when it comes to credit, and that is with our clients, especially those who have been married, divorced, that are single again, or whatever the scenario is, maybe a junior, senior, first, second, or third. We have issues with the last name, the middle name, and the first name. So when it comes to making sure that when you go to a rental property that you have the right legal documentation, your Social Security card must show the name that is going to show with the credit bureaus. If there is not a match, there could be a red flag on the rental reporting company's screening test to say that, hey, maybe you're doing some funny business and maybe you're a scam artist and they don't want you there. That in itself can be the deciding factor of whether or not you are able to rent from that particular landlord. Okay. The other thing that we see a lot of, and let me just go back to this Social Security card with the right name. Ladies, keep it simple. If you are thinking about getting married, drop the hyphenation and just go with his last name. Keep it simple and easy. We don't want a lot of confusion in your files. The more names that are shown on the credit report and the more names that are shown on the different types of legal documentation, such as your driver's license and your Social Security card and your data and your birth certificate, they all cause problems for you to be able to move forward with renting property and other things as it relates to finances and credit. So we got to really be smart, ladies. We got to be smart. And guys, we also have to be smart in the sense that if you have been using junior for umpteen years, if you were in high school and they call you junior, but you decided that when you became grown and an adult, you didn't want to use junior no more, just because it makes you think about being a kid again and you're a man now, listen, go ahead and use junior, because junior or senior or first, second, or third as a suffix on the end of your last name will help to make it very simple and easy for someone to identify you versus your father or any other person that is a part of your family member, or even someone that's not a part of your family that may have the exact same name. And if you especially don't have a middle name, that goes for both male and female. If you don't have a middle name and you just have a first and a last name, there should be something that allows the people, when they look at your paperwork, to see that you are different and you're different from the other person. I was going to call out a name, but I can't call out names here. But yeah, you're different from the other party that has the exact same name that doesn't have a middle name. So there are components of our names that we tend to not understand, that the more names that we show, especially for both male and female, the more names that we show, the more complicated the reports get. And so the screening process for us to get approved for rental history is usually a thumbs down, because we don't know, as a rental property landlord or manager or corporation, whether or not you are who you say you are. All right. So that's the thing that we want to make sure: your social security card and especially your birth certificate, that is present when you are getting ready to go to rent out the property. All right. The other thing that we want to look at is the driver's license. Now, this is the other thing that becomes a problem for us every time we look at a credit report. Now, even though we're talking about today the rental report, we are still saying that this information needs to be accurate. It needs to be correct. So on your driver's license, you have your name. That name should match your social security card and your birth certificate. Then we have the driver's license address, and the address that most of us use is an old address or mom and them address. And listen, that's not okay, y'all. That is not okay. When we look at applying for any type of credit in the regular credit arena of reporting with Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and Innovis, we know that you got to have the correct address so that the credit that we are purchasing will come to the right address, the bill, the statement. And if you are applying for credit cards or department store cards, where is it going to go? If it is going to mom and them's address, and will you actually receive it, or could somebody take it out of the mailbox and run off with your credit card? That's how so many scam artists happen. But we are talking about the rental property, and it works the same way. If you are showing that you were renting you were previously residing at mom and them address, and it makes it seem like you have never ever moved out from your home address, then why would a landlord really want to take a risk on you? Because there's no history to show proof that you have been renting anywhere. And you could be in your 40s or 50s or 60s or whatever age. But the fact of the matter is that when you become a person that is going to always show mom and them's address, it makes it seem like you're still a kid and that you never had any experience in the real world. So most lenders, most rental property companies will not want to take the risk of putting you in their place of residency, because they are saying that they don't trust you. So let's go ahead and go to the DMV and get our addresses changed on our driver's license so that it will match what is on our credit reports, so that it will match what is on our paycheck stubs or on our business bank account statements, so that when we present the income and they check the credit reports, that it will all match. All of our legal documentation will match the same information that is reporting on every piece of paper. Okay, so we want to establish that that has to be done. Okay, we got to make sure that that's done. We talked about the phone number and the email. That's very important. Now we're going to go into some of the other things that they look at. Now, when you go into a rental property to rent property, you want to make sure that you look good. Like, you ain't got to be like $1,000,000, look like $1,000,000 per se, but you want to look clean and you want to look put together. You don't want to go in there, and just say, okay, well, I just got off from work and I'm a painter and I got paint all over my body. Or I'm in construction and I got dirt everywhere. My shoes are dirty. My shirt's dirty. My hair has dirt in it because I work in construction. It does not matter what your situation is of why you would walk into a rental property and not look clean. When I say looking clean, look like you took a shower today and look like you chose the appropriate attire so that people will not pass judgment on you in the rental property office. Okay, so we want to make sure that you look like somebody. Okay, you're supposed to be looking like somebody anyway because you are somebody. So don't go to a rental property under the assumption that they have to accept you as you are. We're trying to make a good impression here so that we can rent at the right places, at the places that are going to allow us the livelihood, the comfortability, the opportunity for our kids to be able to go to the best schools, the opportunity for our parents to maybe be around the corner in the assisted living home. We want to make sure that we're close by the police or the fire department, or we want to make sure that it's a nice hospital around the corner. And in order for us to be able to rent at these type of locations, we got to think about what we look like when we go in person to fill out an application, or if we are coming in to just do an interview to see if we can fill out an application for a rental property. Do not go to a rental property looking any kind of way. Comb your hair, wash your face, get the crust out of them eyes, clean out your ears even so you can make sure that you're hearing correctly. And, just make sure that your nails are cut, you don't have dirt under your fingernails. Make sure that you look like something that somebody will want to give a building or a space to for rent. Okay. All right. So we got that down pat. The next thing that we want to look at is being able to have the good history of renting. So when I say good history of renting, I want us to understand that there is a big difference between us when we say that we're going to pay our rent on time versus us paying in a grace period. First of all, we learned in the previous videos, and you can go back and watch this when we talked about credit initially, that when you look at having credit, the number one thing we need to understand is that all credit has a due date, and the due date on all credit, it has been established that the due date is not the first day to pay your bill. It is the last day to pay your bill. It is the last day to pay your debt. It's the last day for everything. So whatever your due date is, don't assume that you got a grace period for the purpose of being able to make the payment every single 30 days in the grace period window. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. If you are due on the 1st of every month, like all renters require, or the 5th of the month, right? So most of the renters require either the 1st, the 5th, or the 10th of the month. So whatever the due date is, let's say it's the 1st, and you decide to pay it within your grace period on the 5th. Do you not understand that your due date being the 30th day is saying that you're already 30 days late? So if you decide to pay it on the 5th instead of the 1st of the month, then you're paying 35 days into the previous month's payment. Okay, so when we look at the due date, we have to understand that the due date is not the first day to pay the rent. It's not, even though your rent is due on the 1st of every month, you should have already been making some sort of a payment towards the rent the previous weeks. So one of the things that we teach our clients to do is to make their payments 2 weeks prior to their due date. And this is something that you really should be doing as it applies to your rent every 30 days, okay? And even your mortgages, okay? So if you are renting property, you want to make sure to have a really good rental history. When you decide that you're going to pay within the grace period, what's happening is you're showing the rental history that you are at risk of an eviction. And y'all don't believe me, but those rental reporting agencies are keeping track of every single month that you don't pay by the 1st of the month, if that is your rent's due date. If you're due on the 1st of the month and you go past the grace period, or not even the grace period, if you go past the due date of the rent, then there's a possibility that the rental reporting agency, or rather the rental property itself that you're renting through, is sending the data that you did not pay on the 1st, that you paid within the grace period. And even though they have not necessarily started an eviction process, it does not mean that the eviction process will not show up on your credit. So I've seen so many millions of times where we looked at a rental history and the rental history shows that the person, even though they paid within the grace period, they still show that they were up for eviction. So that's why I'm explaining to you, for you to win at the rental property game, you have to understand that you need to be paying your rent before it's due. Go ahead to the website that they gave you, click on the app, and start making some of your rental payment before the due date so that the report will not have the ability to show that you paid after the due date, even if you have paid within your grace period. That's right. So the reason why a lot of us get into trouble with renting property is because we don't understand that the game is that you need to have that rent in before the date that is due. Do not wait until your grace period. Get in a routine right now to start paying your rent 2 weeks early, a week early, or something within the vicinity of 30 days prior to the date that is due, so that by the time the due date rolls around, all of your money has been submitted to the rental property company. Whoever your landlord is, whomever your rental property manager is, make sure that they have their money before the date that the rent is due. And if you can start doing that, then you will eliminate all of the negative reporting information that is recorded with the reporting companies of rental properties. You will eliminate the fact that they are trying to make it seem like that you are in the process of being evicted when you're actually not. So that's something that is very significant for us to understand. And then I talked a little bit last week about the criminal history. When you are renting a property, one of the things that you need to understand is there will be a background check. Now, different rental property companies, different screening tests are going to require the background check to be done through different resources. So there are millions of companies that do background checks. Some of them do background checks for sex offenders. Some of them do background checks for criminal records. Some of them do background checks to see if you had a felony. It depends on what it is that that rental property decides that is important to them for the people who will live at their location. So I want you guys to really begin to stop and think about, do I have anything in my as a criminal record in my files? Is there something that needs to be expunged, taken off of my criminal records? Is there anything that shows that I'm a sex offender, or is there anything that shows that there's a problem with sex offenders that it relates to my name? Okay, is there anything that shows that I am a person that had disturbance in the area? Last week, I was telling you about someone who had an accident at a particular parking lot. Well, there's also a situation where a very close friend of mine would always go to her kids' school, and every time she went to her kids' school to pick up her kids early, or just to go up there for her kids in general, maybe to go take them to a doctor's appointment, to a dentist appointment, or to get them out of school early, for whatever the reason, they would make her do this strenuous verification process. She would have to provide her driver's license, her birth certificate, her, her social security card, everything. She even had to show like her rental lease to make sure that she lived where she lived. Why? Because previously there was an incident on school grounds where someone was trying to hurry up and get in the parking lot, and they took her parking space, and they got out, she got out, and the person who took the parking space got out of the car, and they started arguing. And they started arguing on school grounds, and someone called the police, and the police reported that this was a school disturbance with both parties' name. So my friend and the other lady who took the parking space from my friend had a disturbance on school property that was hindering her in her rental history to say that she was a problem with disturbing the peace. So this is why it's so important for us to understand that these games that we are playing every day in our life, that sometimes we think it's cute, maybe we be joking around with our friends and whatever, our family members, but we got to stop and think about, how is this going to affect me on paper down the road as it relates to my finances, as it relates to my credit, and as it relates to my rental history. So we have to decide that, have we been reported that we've been a gun carrier? Have we been carrying concealed weapons? Have we been a problem at any grocery store or any other location publicly? Are there any records on you as a criminal or a felony or any type of issue of disturbing the peace, of causing a problem, of a domestic violence situation, or any other issues that may have the real reason of why people don't want to rent property to you? See, this is why we do what we do at KBCR. The reason why we don't get approved for different types of rental properties is for these multiple reasons. And we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to make changes today. So the reason why we do what we do in sharing this pertinent information about finances and credit and all different types of scenarios that people are having in the world is because we care about your credit, your finances. We care about your money. We care about your business. We care about all of these things. And that's why we do what we do, y'all. So go ahead today. Stop hesitating and make sure that you give us a call, that you connect or collaborate, you get into this credit program that we offer so that we can go through your rental history, so that we can go through to see what's there and how to dispute it to get it deleted from your rental history. There are so many rental properties that are reporting information that is inaccurate about individuals and about family members. And we just want to make sure that you don't have this issue going forward in your life, because we understand how important it is to make sure that when you rent property, that you are at peace in your beautiful place you call home. Okay? So listen, if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. That's Kingdom Builders Credit Repair. And we are powered by the CTR Media Network. Thank you, CTR, for all that you do for all these billions of people who are watching us today. And also, make sure that you share this video with a friend. Go ahead, like and subscribe. And listen, put your scenario down below so that we can answer any questions that you may have regarding your rental history, and get into our program so we can take it a little further and clean up the mess for you. All right. Thank you for watching today. Make sure that you have set your notifications so you don't forget to see us when we come on every week from 12:30 to 1 every Friday. All right. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.